Hello, hello, hello. Give me 1 second to do... I don't have a team, so I have to audio balance myself kind things. We'll actually just turn it down. And we'll hopefully have a good setting. I think this level should be good. We'll hope so. I think this will be fine. Okay. We are going to get started. I have moderate levels of confidence that this stream won't crash. That's exciting. We have a whole video, whole host of things. Excited. Salutations, friends. My name is Itchio Bond, otherwise known as No Ordinary Scholar, and long time no see. And by that I mean, yeah, it's been a long time. I'm sorry, but also I'm really tired, so be nice to me. Also, I do look really cute today. I like how I did my hair today. I'm very excited about that. Today we are talking about, and I'm just like, I have a well-prepared, as you can see, document and just an essay. I have an essay about the topic of writing about people you know. But we'll get into that in a second. We have some housekeeping things to get to. We have some morning announcements, scholars. I write books. If you didn't know, I write books. These two are my books. This is A New Throne is the first book in my YA spy series, The Queen of Thieves. And Imani and Aaliyah's Fashion Bible is my new adult romance. I also have a young adult romance short story that came out this year. That, as well as book 5 of The Queen of Thieves, came out this year. So links are down below for that. You'll find links to Itchio pages for both of those. You can get the books completely for free. You'll also find links to my email newsletter and links to just like a link that has all of my links. I think both of those are very important at the moment for people to check out, because my Gmail account, this Gmail account very recently, I highly recommend go checking out the community notes I left. But my Gmail account has been flagged as being unverified, as being from an adult. So currently that has me on like some form of safe search and not be having ads targeted at me. I sure as hell can get like ads in my email still. I sure as hell can also I'm more than welcome to buy gift cards with my Google account in the Google Play Store. Made sure that a minor can still do that. Like presumed minor can still do that. I'm 26 years old. But in the terms of service, technically they can just wipe my account at any given point in time if they cannot verify that I am an adult. And I don't intend to put my driver's license into Google and associate that with my account. So I highly recommend people to like sign up for my email newsletter or tag into that like link of links that I have and I've provided, so that way if my channel disappears at some point, you can still, and you like, if you value things that I create and things that I say and things that I write, that's a surefire way to make sure you can still get them, even if the powers that be decide they don't like that. But also down there with those links, you will find a link to a spreadsheet of GoFundMe pages for lots of different people in a lot of different crisis zones. You'll find links to non-Zionist graphic design programs. Canva is a Zionist graphic design program. And so I recommend some other options. I linked it down below. Snappa.com, which is essentially the exact same thing as Canva, and Inkscape, which is what I personally use because, oh my God, was getting my files out of Canva a pain in the ass, and that they do that intentionally. So Inkscape is a desktop program that uses files on my desktop. So I can just, I have my files, I have access to my files. They're not locked up in a program somewhere. And I can just port them wherever I need them to be. I also have a link to the COVID action map because COVID has not gone away. COVID is still here. Y'all were all complaining about, oh, it's a 10-month high of COVID. That means 11 months ago, COVID was worse because COVID never went away. Back to normal is propaganda. Back to normal is fascist propaganda. And if you are quoting, if you're not masking, if you're following the Back to Normal campaign and you're quoting Octavia Butler, stop it. You're a fool. Reread Parable of the Sower. She has a rant just for you. So I have the COVID action map, which will help you try and find free and highly accessible COVID PPE, personal protective equipment in your area. And yeah, other announcements. Please listen. Other morning announcements that we're going to get into. Please listen to, with regards to the issues of Sudan, please listen to the Sudanese people. Please actively look and find the Sudanese people to listen to on the topic. I've for months been seeing people champion the RSF as heroes. And now that it's more clear that they're not heroes, people are now starting to push the Islamophobic and anti-Islamic propaganda that it is Islamics trying to ethnically cleanse when the war is about resources and it is about power and money. You please listen to the Sudanese people about what is going on. There's literally a Sudan Reddit account of Sudanese people discussing from within the region. Sudanese people in the diaspora. Please just thank you. Yeah, that is all we're going to say right now. That is all we're going to say at this particular moment. Let's go ahead and get into our chat here, our little Deskside Charla. Writing about people. I'm just gonna read this. That is just so you know what we're doing here. Writing about people. It starts. The first draft of this starts. I'm writing this October of 2025, which, oh my God, can I just say October of 2025 feels 4 years, feels like it was 4 years ago. I wrote this at the beginning of October. It feels like it's been so fucking long. I've been working so much. I'm so damn tired. I'm writing this October 2025 in a very reactive headspace. Let's see if that comes through after whatever light editing I end up doing for this. Author's note. I'm the author. So I wrote this during the breaks at my job. And because of this, that I had a lot of time to think through what I was writing. And I had a lot of time to process what I was feeling about it. And it ended up being very incredibly well thought out. But I do still want to state that this topic triggered me and that I am still triggered and frustrated and irritated talking about it, because it is, just that little bit that I can contribute to not only resist the racist and misogynistic stereotype that being emotional always means you have nothing of value to say, a stereotype only used against some people, but also I want to be clear and upfront about how that impacts my biases on the topic, because everything everyone says about anything is biased. The concept of being objective is propaganda, so you as an audience do not question what someone says, why they say it, and who benefits from them saying it. I think I've linked the video to the critique about ground news, which I fucking hate the concept of ground news. Again, ground news is just propaganda, encouraging you not to question who says something, why they say it, who benefits from saying it. There's a video on ground news critiquing it and critiquing that goes a little bit more in depth on the joke that is saying anything is objective when literally nothing can be. But I digress. Another bias of mine is that I'm currently in a place where I deeply, deeply value personal history, community history, and histories as told by sources outside of the imperial cultural center, and that requires an earnest depiction of those around you. Let us begin. So I was watching a video and I heard someone talking about a quote they loved from an author that criticized people that write characters that closely reflect people they know, calling them emotional gangsters and emphasizing the need for Black people in particular to maintain their privacy. And the person talking about it then emphasized that people who write these books that have these characters that are based on real people are writing it for profit. I have so many feelings, none of them good. A really important note to start is I did not look up the original quote because frankly, I fundamentally disagree with everything I've described so far. I have a life experience that could not feel any other way. And I simply don't value this topic and this argument enough to look it up any further. I have no interest in that. So for our purposes today, we will be centering this discussion around this interpretation of the idea and the context in which it came up. That leads us into an overhead reason of why this bothers me. For a lot of people, writing is a great way to express and process things around them and experiences that they've had. And if you're familiar with my writing, you understand the gravity of these situations this can apply to. Thusly, I am particularly averse to the idea of restricting speech and expression for the sake of privacy because of how that consistently facilitates abuse. Abuse thrives when victims are only getting feedback about the situation from the person abusing them and convincing them that it's normal. This applies both as someone expressing their distress and confusion from inside an abusive situation and to people who pick up a book and say, wow, this is exactly like my life. Now I have to process the fact that in the book they call this abuse and universally people reading it call this behavior abuse. I have written about abusive parents very similar to my own because in order for me to write about and express and clearly display the trauma responses that I'm more interested in focusing on, I do need to try and get across, and I do want to try and get across the aspects of the character's environment that brought those behaviors and those tendencies about. I'll also write about situations that have stuck with me for better or for worse, and doing an earnest job of portraying the person involved can help me understand my perspective and what exactly is causing my emotional reaction. And from the audience side, I have a whole video about bad book parents calling out abuse that wasn't called out in the book and was often even so much as treated as something a child should be ashamed of for not tolerating in those books. And I could very easily see the reasoning for that being the normalization of those acts within the author's own lives. I personally did not realize my parent was abusive until I saw a video of parents for and against corporal punishment talking to each other. And only then did I realize if it was supposed to be corporal punishment, I was supposed to know what I did wrong. I wasn't supposed to just be scared whenever my mom was home. I wasn't supposed to be walking on eggshells. And her telling me to kill myself was actually not a part of the parenting process. But I accepted that these things were normal because she told me they were normal. She was the only information and only real access to parenting, what parenting looks like, that I had. And so I accepted those were normal until I had access to something that told me it wasn't. So again, any argument that one's privacy is more important to how speaking candidly and speaking publicly and speaking aloud about these things and those experiences, like finding privacy more important to the ramifications of actually being vocal and not keeping it taboo, keeping it hush hush, trying to keep the peace, that just circles back to facilitating abuse. Even putting those things aside, I don't find disassociating your writing from your reality to be some honorable thing. One phenomenally impactful part of the craft is translating experience into narrative, and a true depiction of someone is included in that. Something that also makes this experience feel deeply misguided is how at odds it is with so many aspects of writing that it feels like it just becomes another scenario of someone creating bullshit rule that places them in a place of superiority over others. You know, very similar to the author that was going around saying a good book only has one exclamation mark. And then when that person is challenged, they'll just repeat, well, other than that case, until you reveal how truly narrow their perspective was to start. But generalizations get better reactions. Like, can you imagine telling someone, don't write that character to honor the teacher that believed in you because they deserve their privacy? Can you imagine telling a songwriter, don't write about the person you're in love with because they deserve their privacy? And if the privacy is relevant anywhere, it is in memoirs. Could you imagine telling someone to write about their life and experiences without describing the people in their life because privacy? And I will take this moment to insist that we focus on these quote unquote positive reflection questions, because if, again, the line is drawn only at points where someone is perceived to have been doing something wrong, that circles back to enabling abuse, which I will not entertain. Remember, kids, comfort is a pillar of white supremacy, and if you're going to waggle your finger at things because you're scared you'll find out you caused harm in a way that makes you uncomfortable, you're a guard dog for systemic abuse. But I digress. I also find this whole idea to be ahistorical. Folklore, legend, mythology, those are the art. Those are examples of that art of translating and processing experiences and those around us. Classic writings follow the same path. So I simply don't understand where this stems from, aside from A, cultures that shame victims for speaking out to keep the peace, or B, that knee-jerk reaction to protect your comfort. But not at all do I feel this is a meaningful interpretation of the art. All of it begging the question of why is isolating our craft from the people that made us, good or bad, to be seen as valuable? Being very frank, being very honest, this feels like if ChatGPT took that whole artist shouldn't use references discourse, ran it through Reddit and Twitter a couple times, and then rewrote it about writing. I'm exhausted. And I will also add the note that though the context I came across this in doesn't bring up difficulty, as someone who both creates completely brand new characters and writes ones reflecting people I know, as a skill, I think the latter is more difficult because a long stretch of time informs your perspective of a person. And unless forming that perspective is key to the story, boiling all that time down into exposition, something wherein 1 or 2 chapters, a person starts off feeling how about this character, how you've grown to feel about the person that they're based on, that can truly feel like asking the reader to pull context out of thin air while you condense 3 dimensions into 1. And it can be even more of like a fight and like hitting your head against a wall when you are writing a character that is displaying some of these behaviors that we don't question in society. Imani and Aaliyah crashed out because despite the fact that this parent on page assaults the child, and on page we call them an abusive parent, I had people just, this mom seems weird. Moms don't do that. Why would a mom do that? And so trying to, like, sometimes there's a line of like, not everyone's gonna get it, but it can be even more hard to fit the context of the way a person has abused you throughout your lifetime, and trying to just, the story's not about them, so you're just trying to dump them into someone. It's screams. I'm screaming. But for now, that is going to be where we leave off that part of the conversation, because now I want to talk about the context where I found this idea, the video I was watching, and it confuses me because the person that had been praising it had just written a book themselves that talks explicitly about people in their life, which, if the question is about privacy, then I stand by saying that this is more relevant when you're saying my real world cousin did and said this and that. I want to talk about it because I think the person blew it off for their own case, or excused it in their own case because their book is offered for free. An assumption that I am making because of how much they emphasize the fact that the books with these characters based on people are sold for profit, and given how some of the relationships in their book go, I believe it to be very unlikely that they presented every person they mentioned with a copy of the book and got approval to share. Firstly, on the topic of the profit, I don't think that the for-profit element is relevant here, as it has no impact on the privacy question. Secondly, I think that in this topic, emphasizing profit here erases how existing in a capitalistic society impacts our relationship with art and puts in, like, emphasizing the profit here puts the onus squarely on the individual to be acting within the politics you have, regardless of their beliefs, experiences, and understandings. Because quite frankly, if you grew up being told your art is only valid if people would pay for it, because that's how most of our society works, I wouldn't blame you for believing that and acting in that. If you grew up being told that your work is only valid if it has an editor and a fancy cover, things that you can't get for free, I understand why you might consider selling those books to help cover costs. Writing and publishing and marketing are a labor. If you believe that keeping up with that labor is only sustainable if you have some form of income to cover your cost of living that doesn't require another job's worth of time and labor, I wouldn't blame you for thinking the solution is to sell the books. And if the stories you have to write have these elements, have these characters based on people, I don't find it reasonable or anything other than an oppressive barrier to the arts to tell people that they have to lock it away and write something else if they want to share anything. Lord help us, we do not need another voice filtering out what is allowed to be considered valid and valuable art. And if we're talking about exploitation, I don't find earning money for something you've written about someone else, regardless of how much that factors into the work, exploitative in and of itself. This reminds me of a philosophy professor I had who wrote a paper describing it as manipulation to give someone an ultimatum. To say either you do this or I leave is manipulation, and the most prominent critique of the paper, both amongst seasoned scholars and my freshman self, was earnestness. It is disingenuous to call it manipulation if it is said in earnest. So at least with regards to the connotation being used with regards to the word manipulation. To call it being an emotional gangster to write about people you know is an idea that feels like it is incapable of reconciling with the idea that people aren't just writing to make shiny things that'll get them attention and money. People write in earnest too. That is all I have to say. That is all for this essay. I feel like I have 8,000 essays and like 20,000 fleeting thoughts. If you are particularly interested in these and don't mind not having trigger warnings and themes on all of these, I can do a essay as to why I don't on the site, but I do post more often on my blog. The link is in that all my links thing. You're welcome to check that out, noordinaryscholar.com. It's still up, it's still going, we're still doing things with it. I need to make a new homepage. I need to do a lot of things. We have homework. I have homework and I'm probably not going to get to it anytime soon because I have so many other projects going on. But that is all from me for now. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to check out all the links down below, and yeah, until next time, valedictions, friends.